I'm about to tell you is classified top secret. Very few people know anything about any of this. I was a soldier, Mr. Garrison, 2 wars. I was one of those secret guys in the Pentagon in charge of procurement, equipment, bullets, rifles, planes, for what we used to call black operations, black ops. Assassinations, coup d'etats, election rigging, propaganda, psych warfare, and so on. World War II, Romania, Yugoslavia, Greece. I helped dismantle the Nazi intelligence apparatus which let us fight the communists. Vietnam, 54, Indonesia, 58, Tibet, 59. We got the Dalai Lama out. We were good, Mr. Garrison, very good. Then we got into the whole Cuban thing. Not so good. My people set up all the bases for the invasion that was supposed to happen in October 1962. Khrushchev sent the missiles to resist the invasion. Kennedy refused to invade, and we were left standing there with our dicks in the wind. Lots of pissed off people, Mr. Garrison, in some very high positions. Do you understand? I'll come back to that later. Anyway, by September 63, most of my time was spent on the new Kennedy plan to get all the U.S. personnel out of Southeast Asia by the end of October 1965. He was going to end the war. The first 1,000 troops had already been ordered home for that Christmas. This was one of the most important and powerful directives ever issued by the Kennedy White House. Needless to say, tensions were high at the very top of the military-industrial complex. They didn't want any of this. By November 63, just a week after the assassination of President Diem in Saigon, and just 2 weeks before the murder of our own president, I, the Director of Special Operations, was sent on a routine fact-finding mission as an escort to some international VIPs to the South Pole. Now, looking back, the timing of that is a little suspect. It wasn't until I was on my way back in New Zealand that I first read of the president's murder. Now, keep in mind, this is 2:00 p.m. the next day, New Zealand time, and already the papers had published this entire history on this unknown 24-year-old guy, Oswald. They had studio pictures, they had detailed biographical data, they had Russian information. They were already saying at that point that they were pretty sure that he had killed the president alone. Now, keep in mind, it would be another 4 hours from that point before anyone even charged him with that crime in Texas. Now, looking at it from my point of view, it looked like a cover story was being set up, the way me and my people would in a textbook black op. Anyway, after I got back, I started to seriously ask myself, why I, the Director of Special Operations, would be sent on a routine mission to the South Pole that any number of other officers or subordinates could have done. I had no specific reason to be there, until I realized that had I been in Washington at that time, one of my routine duties would have been to organize extra security in Dallas. The Secret Service is relatively small, Mr. Garrison. It's custom for the military to back the Secret Service up whenever and wherever needed. I couldn't believe what was happening. Well, after I got back, I dug even further, and sure enough, I found out that someone had told the 112th Military Intelligence Group at the 4th Army Headquarters at Fort Sam Houston that day to stand down, no extra security, despite the protestations of Unit Commander Colonel Reich, by the way. Now, Mr. Garrison, this is significant. It's significant because it is routine, standard operating procedure, especially in a well-known hostile city like Dallas, Texas, to arrange for supplemental security with the Secret Service. Standard procedure. Even if we had agreed to allow the bubble top of that limousine to be removed, which I would never have authorized had I been in charge, but even if we had let that happen, we still would have stationed 100 to 200 agents on the sidewalk that day. There had already been several attempts on de Gaulle's life in France. In fact, just the week before, in Dallas, the UN ambassador, Adelaide Stevenson, had been spit and hit. We would have arrived days ahead of time, checked all the routes meticulously, checked the buildings up, down, and sideways many times over. All standard procedure. And none of it was done in this case. On top of that, we never would have allowed all those open, empty windows facing Dealey Plaza that day. Never. We would have had snipers in place all throughout Dealey Plaza, strategically positioned, and if one of those windows so much as even slightly raised up half an inch, they would have been on the radio. We would have had our agents strategically positioned all across the plaza, looking for anything suspicious, watching the crowds, looking for anything suspicious, anything. Rolled up newspapers, package, a coat over an arm. We never would have let a man open an umbrella on that route, never. We never would have allowed that limousine to slow to 10 miles an hour, not to mention make that awkward turn on Houston and Elm. You would have noticed under normal conditions, Mr. Garrison, an Army presence in the streets that day. But none of it happened. None of it happened. You have to ask yourself, how could this happen? Who had the means, the determination, and the wherewithal to pull off this very specific operation, pulling the strings just enough to deliver this very specific outcome against all odds? Who could have done it? This was a violation of the most basic security and protocols and most basic protection codes that we have, and it is the biggest indication of a massive plot in Dallas. So who was it? People in my business, Mr. Garrison. Black operations. People like my superior officer who could have very easily called Colonel Reich and told him, listen, we have extra security coming in from such and such a place. You're going to stand down that day. I found out only later that there were a few intelligence personnel from the Army on the ground in Dallas that day, but I have yet to figure out who they were or what they were doing here. But whatever they were doing, they were not protecting the president. All this, though, all the questions and speculation about the how and the who really is just a smokescreen. It really just diverts attention from the most critical, important question facing the American public, and that's why. Why was Kennedy killed? Who benefited? Who had the power to cover it up? Those are the central questions, Mr. Garrison. And you have to keep in mind, you are the only person yet who has brought any kind of formal criminal charges in the case of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. You've rattled a lot of cages, and they would have killed you already, but you have a lot of light on you. So what they're left with? They're trying to discredit you, destroy your reputation, which they already have in many circles in this town, which only goes to show that you're close. Closer than you probably think. I only hope you get a break.